You are now watching the official YouTube channel for the largest basketball manager game in the world. Join at BuzzerBeater.com if you think you can beat the buzzer.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Bubbles BuzzerBeater, the official BuzzerBeater YouTube channel. Today I wanted to go through the Elite 8 BuzzerBeater best teams for Season 63 and just kind of look at their rosters, their lineups, their team breakdown, and just notice any similarities between the teams here. You'll see the Elite 8 teams all present on the screen right now. A couple teams that have been in the mix before, and a couple new teams as well. So just wanted to look at what do the Elite 8 BuzzerBeater best teams have in common. So the first thing that jumps right off the screen, and that's kind of common sense, but something that's very notable is just how much team salary these teams that are competing in BuzzerBeater best carry on their books. So you'll see the average combined salary for the top 7 players on these Elite 8 teams is just over 1.4 million weekly salary, which is insanely high. I think most teams in top leagues, they'll hover around 800,000 to maybe touching 1 mil at the very most, and a lot of teams are even below that mark. So 1.4 mil for the combined 7-player salary is pretty insane. And then another notable thing is just how many national team players that all of these top teams carry, where these Elite 8 BuzzerBeater best finalists have on average 5 national team players in the rotation. So those are the two biggest stats, and then just to break that down per team so you can kind of see the breakdown. This is the breakdown of the top 7 players combined salary, how many national team players each team has, as well as how many homegrown and local players are in their rotation. So this is just looking at the top 7 players. So some of them might have, like their 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, however many men might be homegrown or local. But I was primarily just looking at those top 7 players that are the primary people in their playoff rotation or BuzzerBeater best rotation. So you can look through there. The highest team salary at a insane 1.727 million weekly salary for just their top 7 players is Big Shoes, and also carries 7 national team players. The lowest amount of national team players is our Chinese friend, who actually has both national team players for the United States, which is fun for me because I get to help game plan and do tactics. So I kind of have a good idea of what those 2 players look like, but they do come in at one of the lowest combined salaries for the top 7 players. And then we do have Atonic Hakeem also with a much lower combined salary compared to the other Elite 8 teams from BuzzerBeater's best. But I think that gives a pretty good breakdown for what these teams look like in terms of salary and just what their roster makeup looks like in terms of national team players and salary. And then the other thing that I wanted to look at was just, what else do these teams have in common in terms of their lineups and the types of players that they have. And something that was very noticeable when I started collecting all the data for it and looking at the players on their teams is just the excess of forwards for both small forwards and power forwards. But the sheer amount of forwards on their rosters is insane. And you also see that there's very few listed shooting guards and very few listed centers on their roster. So it's very much small forwards, power forwards, and point guards that make up the bulk of these Elite 8 teams. And thinking from a theoretical or philosophical aspect, it makes sense because those are the 3 positions that you're typically able to stack on more total skill points and find those 150, 160 total skill point players is the point guards, small forwards, and power forwards. So not a lot of shooting guards or centers on the teams. And then it was interesting that not a single Elite 8 team carries all 5 listed positions in their rotation. So what I mean by that is If there's a team that does happen to carry a center in their top 7 players, they don't have a shooting guard. If they're a team that does have a listed shooting guard, they oftentimes don't have a center. So not a single Elite 8 team in BuzzerBeater's Best Season 63 has all 5 listed positions in their rotation, which I thought was interesting. And then just the breakdown for positions. So essentially, as I mentioned, lots of small forwards, power forwards, and point guards. Very, very few centers and shooting guards. And if you look at the top salaries, so this is just broken down in terms of top players in terms of salary. So I know that's not always like the most accurate. Sometimes you'll have like a better player who has a lower salary, but in terms of what I can view from these players, and I obviously can't see a lot of their skills unless they're on like transfer list or anything. But a lot of the top salary players are shooting guard, small forward, or power forward. And then as you get into top 3, top 5, and then that overall for the top 7 playoff rotation, it just kind of solidifies, what I was seeing in my data points, and kind of what I had thought before I even researched this was a lot of the top teams, you see so many power forwards instead of centers, and then a lot of point guards and small forwards instead of shooting guards. My guess, because you have less jump range, because jump range is a very expensive skill to carry. And then for a center, a lot of times it's, these secondary skills that are making up players that are listed as power forward instead of center. So for these top teams, it makes sense that you don't see as many of them. And then for the team-by-team breakdown, this is kind of what you're looking at for the Elite 8 teams, and the number 1 salary, number 2, 3, 4, all the way down to the 7 for their rotation. There are a couple of these teams that do carry an 8th player in the rotation, but most of those are going to be like, 30,000 weekly salary players at the most. So top 7 made the most sense for this experiment and this kind of data dumper research. And you can see the breakdown here. Some of these team breakdowns, you'll see just power forwards and point guards, which is interesting. And then others, a little bit more of a mix, but a lot of them don't carry any sort of center where it's just power forwards. That's the breakdown. So cool to see that breakdown there, and cool to see the salary breakdowns as well. But what stood out most for you from these 8 teams and how they've constructed their rosters? I think there's a lot of interesting concepts with team building in BuzzerBeater. And BuzzerBeater's Best isn't always the best way to, evaluate like standard team building, because there's just so much salary that these guys are carrying. But very interesting to see what those players look like on their rosters. And I'm excited to see who's going to make the Final Four and who's eventually going to win BuzzerBeater's Best in Season 63. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will be back soon with another video. Bye.